There's a moment most men have experienced, but almost none of them truly understood. It doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It happens quietly, right in front of you. She's standing there, close enough that you can feel her presence without even touching her, and something about her energy feels different. Not louder, not obvious, but heavier, charged, like the air between you is carrying something unspoken. And here's where everything begins to separate. Because an ordinary man will look at her and see nothing unusual. But a man who understands feels the shift immediately. He notices the micro-tension in her body. Not fear, not discomfort. Something else, something deeper. Her stillness isn't empty, it's controlled. Like she's holding something back, not because she wants to, but because she doesn't fully understand it herself. Let me ask you something. Have you ever stood in front of a woman and felt like time slowed down for a second? Not in a cinematic way, in a subtle way, where the conversation fades and something else takes over. Most men ignore that moment. They rush to fill it, they break it, because silence makes them uncomfortable. But what they don't realize is that silence was never empty. It was full of tension, full of curiosity, full of possibility. And the moment they tried to escape it, they lost everything that was about to happen. Because attraction, real attraction, doesn't scream. It builds, quietly, layer by layer, until it reaches a point where her body begins to speak, even if she hasn't said a single word. Now look at her again, not just at her face, not just at what she's saying. Look at how she exists in that moment. Her breathing. It's slightly different. Not obvious, but not completely steady either. There's a rhythm to it, a subtle inconsistency, like her body is trying to regulate something that's rising inside her. And here's what most men miss. Attraction is not just emotional, it's physiological. Her body reacts before her mind understands, before she labels it, before she decides what it means. And that's why these signals are so powerful, because they're real, unfiltered, uncontrolled. Her lips, watch them carefully, not in an obvious way, but with awareness. There's a slight tension there. Sometimes she presses them together gently. Sometimes she parts them just slightly, as if she's about to say something but doesn't. And in that hesitation, there's meaning. Because the body doesn't create these movements randomly. They are responses to presence, to energy, to you. You see, when someone feels nothing, their body stays neutral, calm, predictable. But when something begins to build inside her, her body starts looking for release. Not in an extreme way, in small, almost invisible ways. A shift in posture, a subtle movement, a quiet adjustment. And every one of these is a signal, not loud, but precise. Now pay attention to her hands, because hands are honest. They don't lie the way words do. They reveal what someone is feeling, even when they're trying not to show it. Is she completely still, or is there movement? Not exaggerated, not dramatic, just there. Maybe her fingers lightly touch each other. Maybe she adjusts something that doesn't need adjusting. Maybe her hand moves, then stops, then moves again. That's not randomness. That's internal energy trying to express itself. And when attraction is present, that energy has direction, toward you. Not always directly, but consistently. And here's something deeper. When a woman feels nothing, she creates space, naturally, without thinking. Her body angles away, her focus shifts, her attention drifts. But when she feels something, even if she doesn't fully understand it, her body does the opposite. It stays, it orients, it aligns. Not perfectly, but enough for you to notice if you're paying attention. Her shoulders, her chest, the center of her body, these don't lie. They move toward what feels good, toward what feels interesting, toward what feels alive. And if that direction is you, then something is already happening, without a single word being spoken. Now here's where it becomes even more subtle.
her eyes. Everyone talks about eye contact, but almost no one understands it. Because it's not about how long she looks at you, it's about how she looks at you. There's a difference between looking and seeing, between observing and connecting. When there's no attraction, her gaze is functional. It comes and goes. It doesn't stay. It doesn't deepen. But when something is there, her gaze changes. It lingers just a little longer. It softens just a little more. And sometimes it breaks, not because she wants to, but because it becomes too intense to hold. And then it returns, almost automatically, as if her attention refuses to stay away from you for too long. That back and forth, that subtle pull, is where everything lives. Because attention is the most honest form of attraction. You don't give it unless something inside you wants to. And when her attention keeps returning to you, even when she tries to focus elsewhere, that's not coincidence, that's instinct. Now, let's go deeper, because this is where most men completely lose awareness. They see one signal, and they try to define everything based on it. But attraction doesn't work like that. It's not one thing. It's a pattern, a combination, a sequence of small signals that align, creating something undeniable. One movement means nothing. Two, maybe. But when it repeats, when it layers, when it builds consistency, that's when it becomes real. That's when you can trust it, not blindly, but confidently. And here's the part no one tells you. The moment she starts feeling it, she's not always aware of it. Her body knows, her mind is catching up, and that creates tension, internal tension, because she's experiencing something before she has words for it, before she decides what to do with it. And that's what that moment is all about. That quiet intensity, that subtle shift, that moment where everything feels like it could move forward or disappear completely. And here's the truth. That moment is fragile. Not weak, but temporary. It doesn't stay open forever. It appears, it builds, and then it either evolves or fades. And what determines that is not what you say, not what you do dramatically, but whether you recognize it while it's happening. Most men don't. They think attraction needs to be obvious, clear, undeniable. But real attraction, especially in the beginning, is quiet, subtle, almost hidden, not because it's weak, but because it's new. And new things don't announce themselves loudly. They reveal themselves slowly, to those who are aware enough to see them. So the question isn't whether she feels something. The question is, are you present enough to notice it? Because once you see it, truly see it, you can't go back. You can't unsee it. Every interaction becomes different. Every moment becomes clearer. Not because people changed, but because your awareness did. And that changes everything.
There's a stage where the atmosphere itself begins to change, not because anything obvious has happened, but because something beneath the surface has started to build. You can feel it before you can explain it. A quiet tension, not uncomfortable, not awkward, but charged, like something is waiting. And she feels it too, even if she doesn't fully understand it yet. Her body starts responding in ways that don't require conscious thought. Small shifts, subtle adjustments, almost like she's reacting to something invisible, something only the two of you are sharing in that moment. Watch the way she holds herself, not the obvious posture, but the micro changes. There's a softness that wasn't there before, a slight relaxation mixed with something else, something more alert. Because when attraction deepens, the body doesn't just relax, it awakens. There's a duality, comfort and anticipation, calm and underlying excitement, and that combination creates a very specific kind of energy, one that most people feel but don't know how to interpret. Her movements begin to slow down, not dramatically, just enough to notice if you're paying attention, as if she's no longer rushing through the moment, but settling into it, savoring it. Because when someone feels nothing, they move quickly. Their attention drifts. They look for exits, distractions, something else. But when someone feels something, they stay.
And staying is one of the strongest signals there is, not physically trapped, but willingly present. Now look at how she positions herself around you. Distance becomes important here, not the obvious kind, but the subtle changes in proximity. Is she maintaining the same space, or is it shifting, slowly, almost unnoticeably? Because attraction doesn't close distance instantly. It reduces it gradually, step by step, moment by moment, without drawing attention to itself. And often, she won't even realize she's doing it. She'll lean in slightly when you speak. She'll stay just a fraction closer than necessary. She won't pull away immediately when there's a natural reason to. And these moments, they seem small, insignificant even, but they're not. They're indicators of comfort, of curiosity, of a growing connection that hasn't been spoken yet. Now pay attention to something even more subtle, her reactions. Not just what she says, but how she responds. There's a difference between polite engagement and genuine interest. Polite engagement is predictable. It follows a pattern, nods, short responses, surface-level reactions. But genuine interest breaks that pattern. Her reactions become slightly more animated, not exaggerated, but real. There's a spark behind them, a presence, as if she's not just hearing you, but experiencing the moment with you. And sometimes she reacts before she even processed what you said. A small smile that appears too quickly, a laugh that feels more natural than controlled. These are not calculated responses, they're instinctive. And instinct is where truth lives. Because the mind can filter, it can adjust, it can hide, but the body responds in real time. Now notice her focus. Where does her attention go when it's not forced? Because attention reveals priority, and priority reveals interest. If her attention drifts constantly, if it struggles to stay with you, that tells you something. But if it keeps returning, effortlessly, without resistance, then something deeper is happening. Even when she looks away, does she come back? Does her awareness stay connected to you, even when her eyes momentarily shift elsewhere? That connection, that invisible thread, is one of the clearest signs there is, because attention is not controlled by obligation, it's controlled by interest, and interest cannot be faked for long. Now let's go deeper, because this is where things become almost imperceptible. Her energy, not what she says, not what she does, but what she radiates. There's a difference between neutral energy and engaged energy. Neutral feels flat, predictable, easy to ignore. But engaged energy has weight. It pulls you in. It makes the moment feel more alive, more present. And when a woman feels strong attraction, her energy shifts in a very specific way. It becomes warmer, more open, but also more intense. Not overwhelming, just enough to be felt, like a quiet current running beneath everything. And that current is what creates that feeling you can't quite explain. That sense that something is happening, even if nothing obvious has changed. Now here's where most men lose control of the moment. They notice something is different, but instead of staying grounded, they rush. They try to define it too quickly. They break the flow. Because intensity, even subtle intensity, makes them uncomfortable. But the ones who understand do something different. They don't interrupt it. They don't try to control it. They allow it to build. Because they know this is the stage where everything deepens, not through action, but through presence. The ability to stay in the moment without needing to change it. That's rare, and that's what makes it powerful. Because when you don't rush, when you don't force, you give the moment space to evolve naturally. And when it evolves naturally, it becomes stronger, more real, more undeniable. Now observe something even more revealing. Her breathing. It's subtle, almost invisible, but it changes. When someone feels nothing, their breathing stays consistent, steady, unaffected. But when something begins to build inside her, her breathing reflects it. Slightly deeper, slightly less controlled. Not enough to stand out, but enough to shift the rhythm of the moment. And that rhythm affects everything. The way she speaks, the pauses between words, the silence between exchanges. Everything becomes just a little bit slower, a little bit heavier, a little bit more intentional without trying to be. And this is where tension reaches a different level. Not external tension, internal. The kind that sits just beneath the surface, waiting, not for something dramatic, but for something real. And here's the truth most people never realize. This stage is where attraction either grows or disappears, not because of what's said, but because of how the moment is handled. If it's rushed, it collapses. If it's ignored, it fades. But if it's understood, if it's allowed to exist without interference, it transforms into something much stronger, something that doesn't need explanation, because it can be felt clearly, directly, without confusion. And once it reaches that point, everything changes, because now it's no longer subtle, it's no longer hidden, it's simply there, waiting.
She stands before you, perfectly still, yet her body vibrates with quiet intensity. Not fear, not nervousness, but a deep, instinctive desire. Every subtle motion, her breath, the sway of her hips, the tilt of her shoulders, is a signal, a language spoken without words. Her eyes lock on yours, holding your gaze longer than expected. Pupils slightly dilated, fleeting glances to your lips, a soft return to your face, each movement revealing curiosity, attraction, and unspoken longing. Her lips, gently bitten or licked, hint at nervous excitement and private fantasies she's not voicing. Touch becomes her way of communicating, a brush of her hand, a lingering touch on your arm or shoulder, even a casual gesture near your presence. All are tests, invitations, silent explorations of closeness. These micro-actions are instinctive, fueled by chemistry and the body's natural craving for intimacy. Her movement is a dance of attraction, a subtle sway in her hips, a measured shift of weight, a rhythm in her steps, all unconscious yet magnetic. She is aware of your observation and responds without effort, drawing attention while remaining entirely natural. Even her voice communicates more than her words. Fluctuations in pitch, subtle pauses, and soft inflections hint at engagement and emotional openness. She measures the space between you with micro-adjustments, leaning closer, retreating slightly, gauging your response, building tension, and inviting intimacy without saying a word. Every detail, her breath, her hands, her gaze, her energy, creates an invisible web of connection. Awareness of these cues allows you to see her attraction clearly, to respond naturally, and to experience the unspoken tension that grows between two people drawn together. Her body tells a story of desire, curiosity, and engagement, one that only those who truly notice can understand.